why we have unintended consequences, and also why, if we know about a lot of the unintended consequences, like why we continue to buy food that's cheap, like what sort of structures help us enable us to do this sort of practice. And the event we're going to use is buying a cheap apple.
So for patterns, we're going to talk about, so if you pick the cheap option once, you might have a tendency to consistently buy a cheap option. So that's a pattern there. And if you're consistently going after the cheapest option, you might choose to go to stores that market themselves based on cheap food or cheap products, for example, Walmart, Big Y, Market Basket, etc. So cheap food slash cheap stores. And another pattern having to do with food is choosing convenience over nutrition or other needs. And can anybody else think of patterns that have to do with cheap food or the way that we value food in our society? Just anything?
Sometimes companies will put a grocery store like right across the street from another grocery store, and you just pick the one that's more convenient, so you don't have to cut across traffic or whatever. It's great. They do studies on that.
Yes.
One of the lifestyle patterns is just busy, 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 rushing all the time.
So now we're going to go into some instructions.
So, yeah, there are a lot of patterns that kind of lead up to an event, but there are also a lot of structures that allow us to keep doing the same sorts of patterns over and over again. So maybe I'll open up to you guys. What are some physical structures that we interact with when we're shopping for cheap food? So structure is sort of like a noun. So like something that you interact with or use.
Roads.
Roads. So shopping plazas. So what comes with roads is also fossil fuel dependent. Structures are actually like very intentionally placed and come from very intentional policies. So those are sort of, I think of policies as metastructures. They like support structures. And you're going to talk a little bit about policies. And I'm going to show that here.
Of that is like grow your farm, whereas before there were policies in place that were good, that made people conserve and treat the land better. But
Yeah, the subsidies were paid to farmers to not produce, and then he kind of was like, no, we'll pay you to produce. So,
One of the structures is the university system, right, that supports this whole enterprise. Trains people to be part of it.
Yeah, education in general.
Yeah.
So now we're going to look at the current mental models that support this event.
sweet. Okay, so there's the main mental model that we started this project on was food should be cheap, and I think that that's one that I agree with at first, but I mean it's definitely changing. But there's tons more that go along with this project and just this idea, because there's no one mental model that's going to encompass like the way our food system works, or really any system. It's not that simple. So before we explore that, can you guys think of any mental models that specifically come out of like these patterns that also go into supporting our like idea that food should be cheap? It's a little bit, but we have this general idea that we shouldn't be spending a lot of our money on food. If we're only spending 10% of our money on our food, then there's definitely tons more that one could be going to things like bills and rent, which obviously needs to be paid, but there's that extra income that hopefully you can spend on something else. And we kind of talked about how there was this idea that we have a mental model of success is defined by your ability to spend money on material things other than food, whereas in a perfect world, maybe it would be shifted to your wealth is defined by how healthy you are, or how plentiful you have like good quality food that's coming from a better economy. And it also goes into the fact that we don't think about voting with our money. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that every time you spend a dollar on something, you're essentially putting your vote into a product. Very connected.
So we're thinking that our effect doesn't matter.
Yes, exactly.
Like there's
changing and choosing to buy local or choosing to buy a better option, it will hopefully snowball into more people, and the more people we have that are divesting from poor options, even more, it'll create better options. And then finally, it all just, again, plays into why do we think food should be cheap or food should be cheap? And there's not one real answer, but there's certainly many that kind of converge and come together to make this like perfect storm of negative, I don't know, structures and systems.
But all is not lost.